is here with us today. He was born in 1923. 23. All right, to an Italian immigrant family of 10. 6 boys, 4 girls. All right, they lived in New York. And I understand he was counting down the days in high school until he could join the military. Went to boot camp and then Columbia University to do medic training. All right. After that, he was transferred to Coast Guard Base, San Diego. So we have a lot of San Diego folks here this morning. And that was in 1943. He attended a 9-week prep class at the Coast Guard Academy and then transferred to Boston, where he volunteered with some of his friends for assignments on an LCI. I had to look up what that was. My husband would have known instantly, so many of you probably know. But it's a 158-foot vessel, crew of about 33. They can land 200 troops at a time on the beach. And he was on a medic on 2 LCIs for 2 years. And I looked up those boats last night. Between them, they have 11 battle stars, those 2 LCIs. They were in commission about 3 years. And they have 11 battle stars between them. So they saw some action. He spent 3.5 years with the Coast Guard in World War II. He was at the Battle of Normandy at Utah Beach. And he was in Okinawa before and after the dropping of the atomic bomb. He has 2 Bronze Stars himself for bravery and medical prowess for attending to a fleet of injured men for hours before additional aid arrived. He's a father of 3 and a husband of 68 years to his wife, Patricia. So we have him here to give us some interesting information, and it's always nice to have you, sir. He's also probably going to be around during our morale lunch, so hopefully you guys will have some chance to interact with him. I was just listening to him for a few minutes with the Admiral, and he's got lots of good stories, so I'm sure he'd be interested in sharing those with you guys. He's going to give us a little introduction and then open it up to questions from you all. So, Mr. Trifoso, thank you for being here with us.
Now, you got to imagine me, a first-class pharmacist mate, okay, all of a sudden being back on that ship with 32 buddies, okay, 4 officers, 28 enlisted men. Never in a world would ever I think that I would be shaking hands with an admiral. Because the best I could do was a first-class petty, a Lieutenant JG, and 1 lieutenant. They're all 90-day wonders. Okay? But being 90-day wonders, those guys were unbelievable, I'll tell you, because they had to learn too. When you're on an LCI, it's 157 feet long, 50 feet wide, flat bottom, no keel, okay? 4 compartments where 50 soldiers would be in each compartment, all right? And you got to visualize the fact that whenever you're in a storm, you couldn't sleep, you had to lash yourself into your bunk. And food was something that you didn't have, all right? You had no television, no cell phones, no nothing. All we had was each other, okay? And we got to be real good buddies. And the best guys of all were the boatswain mates, the signalmen, the quartermasters, because they're the guys that got us from point A and point B, okay? And so it was quite an experience being on an LCI. And when you spend 2 years on it, you know, it's pretty long. When you go 3,000 miles and it's like this, flop, 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 and okay. And you get into a storm and you're flopping in the water. So it was quite an experience. And the Coast Guard is a great outfit. And D-Day, if you got to visualize D-Day, when we pulled in the channel with June 5th, we went in the channel with 200 soldiers, all right? And they were all seasick, all right? And they called it off, so finally June 6th came and we pulled into that channel. And to look into that channel, as far as the eye could see, 5,400 ships, 11,000 airplanes, okay? and 175,000 men. And we're all going in that channel. And the Coast Guard, there were 24 ships in our flotilla. And we're going along, all right, across that line, across the channel, and we're all in the line. And I don't ever heard of Ernie Pyle, but he took the picture of the Coast Guard ships. And I've got a film here, a 3-hour film, which depicts Flotilla 10 in the 91, the 92, and the 93, and the 85. They were left on the beach because they went to Omaha. Tell you a little bit of a story. As we got near Normandy, there's all kinds of shell fire up ahead, and we went to our flagship, the U.S. Bayfield, and we got our orders, and the 24 ships, okay, we started out, and we're going toward Normandy. 12 went to the left, 12 went to the right, okay. Luckily, I was on the 12 and went to the right, because the 12 went to the left went to Omaha. There were 3,000 guys lost their lives. And the 91, the 92, and 93, the Coast Guard ships, they were left right on the beach. And the 85. And luckily I went to Utah, but it was pretty bad there. But the point I'm making is that that's the luck of the draw, okay? And so there's a lot of stories. And I wound up doing that, and we were there for the D-Day, and then we were there for about 3 months. And every day you would see 1,000 B-24s on the way to bomb Germany. Then they would come back. At night you see 1,000 Labradors, British Labradors, they'd go on bombing trips. And finally you see these buzz bombs, you probably heard of them, flying over, and it was quite an experience. And I figured after I did my duty there in Normandy, it would be over. So we finally crossed Atlantic Ocean, 3,000 miles, you know, flop, flop, flop. And got back to the States, gave me a 30-day leave, and 6 days later, I get a telegram report back to the ship. And I go back, the guy who was supposed to take my place went over the hill, okay? And I was left on, all my buddies were gone. 600 guys were transferred off the other ships. We went through the Panama Canal, San Diego. From there, we took off, went to Okinawa. We had 49 air raids, Japanese kamikaze planes, and that was about it. Atomic bomb, the whole 10 yards. And luckily, I was able to survive it. But the biggest heroes are those guys that went down the ramps, the soldiers. And there were guys like me at 19, 20 years of age, and you know, they were the guys that fought that war, and the majority of them lost their lives, I'll tell you, because once they hit the beach, went down the ramps, and water up to their necks, and they're floundering around, okay, seasick, but still they did their job. And so if you ever start feeling sorry for yourself, just think about those guys, okay? But I'm not gonna go on telling any more stories there. You've probably got limited time here, so.
Maybe ask some questions, if they have questions.
Pardon?
Ask if they have questions, maybe.
Do you have any questions?
I have a question. Well, first of all, thank you for being here. We really appreciate that. I'm getting the opportunity to go to Normandy fairly shortly, and was wondering, is there anything that you would recommend seeing if you ever get the chance to go out there?
Well, I'll tell you, I made Normandy. I went back to visit, and to go there and just go to Omaha Beach, that cemetery on top of the hill there, 10,000 GIs are buried. After the actual D-Day, being a medic, I had to go ashore to pick up some supplies. This is about 2 weeks after the invasion. And I went to Omaha Beach, and I walked up and down the beach, looking at all the different ships that were banged up as like nothing, okay, unbelievable. And I walked up on top of the hill, and I looked over the whole panorama there, okay? And, but in the meantime, they had all these guys that were killed. Many of them, they had blankets over them, because they were gonna bury them up at this one level, okay? So when you go there, that's gonna be very imposing. Plus the fact that a lot of museums there that you can go and pick up. There's so much history there that you won't forget it. And when you go to the National Cemetery there, where there's 10,000 GIs gave their lives, I mean, you gotta stop and think, you know. And there's a lot of stories with Coast Guardsmen because that flotilla 10 was the number one, because you had many ships out there with Coast Guardsmen down there, but my flotilla, they were, you know, they came from Sicily, so North Africa, Sicily, Salerno, all different battles. They wind up there, and so it'd be worth the trip. Everybody should do it if you possibly afford it. Okay, so that's it. Anything else?
So you were assigned here to this base back in the 40s, correct, sir?
43.
43. What
Yeah.
were your memories of the base
Well,
back in those days?
the memories at that time, I always thought I was a pretty good athlete, and they had a softball team on here, so they immediately put me on the softball team at the softball field there. This place was very, very tranquil and peace, you know, very highly active. And in San Diego, you had to appreciate San Diego at that time because it was a jumping off place for all these Marines. You're gonna go out to South Pacific and fight in all those different battles, okay? And you gotta visualize thousands of Marines wandering down the streets, Navy men. And the place was really jumping, okay? And a lot of activity. And the only activity a fella had when he had to leave was to try to get into a bar, okay? And that time I was 19 years old, and the age, drinking limit was 21. So you can imagine what we had to do. We had to falsify our IDs. Sometimes they'd buy it, and sometimes they wouldn't. But I won't go into the background of what took place, you know, with all the activity at that time. But San Diego was unbelievable. And luckily, this air station was a short distance from downtown San Diego. So I'd walk out the gate, jump on the bus, away we'd go, you know. But it was a great experience, and you guys are lucky to be at the age you're at and take advantage of it. But most of all, obey the rules, because once you fight City Hall, you're in big trouble. That's about it.
Right.
Thank you.
Sir, thank you so much for being here. We salute your
Appreciate it.
duty and your service to our nation and all that you've done, and
This
thank
is
you
the
for
hardest point
sharing
in my
some.
life right now. Not much left, but I'm still alive.
So, for your knowledge, earlier when the Admiral was here, he actually showed us his fake Coast Guard ID. That, he was afraid he was going to get extra duty all these years later.
Maybe I'd get KP.
And also the Admiral gave him his personal coin, and then back in March when I met him, I gave him my coin. So he's got a couple coins in that pocket.
Now, I'm gonna give you this. Where is that? I'll give it to you here.
All right.
3-hour Cape. It shows flotilla 10, 91 to 92 and 93, and my ship, the 325, is in it. You can see pictures of it.
Great.
And it's an actual depiction of the actual invasion. So
Right.
you're gonna see just about everything that's taken place. It's done very, very smart. Also, I made a tape. That was all done against I didn't realize it was being taped. It's about 20 minutes.
Well, we're gonna incorporate this into our training, and if you're willing, maybe we'll have you come back and you can talk a little bit about the video. We'll
Yeah, I'll
show
come back.
some pieces of it.
As long as I get a meal out of it.
Oh, you're good. Thank you, sir. Thanks for your service. Thanks for keeping us free.